Turn my phone down.
Everyone stand, please. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, is there any public comment on any item on the agenda? Not seeing any, we'll suspend the public comment and bring it back to the board. Any comments on the consent agenda?
Move the
Can I ask a question? I don't necessarily need to pull anything, but what do we do with the old vehicles when we're buying all these?
We're gonna be discussing that in detail.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
okay, thank you.
I thought that was on the consent.
No, that's the buying.
Okay,
It's on the administrative, we're gonna.
I'm sorry,
We
my
have it
bad.
all flagged, yeah,
My bad.
yeah, okay. We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a second. Call for question. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The administrative agenda, our first item, Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you. For the record, Brian McGonigal. Administrative, item number 4, this is the budget for next year. We're requesting the board approve the 22-23 budget, the rates and fees that go along with that budget, the 22-23 compensation plan, the rates and fees package at Page Field, and authorization for Ben to make interfund transfers throughout the year. If you recall, we had a budget workshop in May 6th. We went into a lot of detail. And Ben, do you want me to walk them through what happened? Okay, so we had a good discussion. I walked the airlines. I walked the committee through the revenues and expenses, which I'm going to do in a minute. But there was a lot of discussion at the May 6th meeting on pay, on compensation. And at that workshop, the board directed us to do 3 things. Do a 5% across the board raise this year, do a 7% COLA 10-1, and do up to a 3% merit. That was the direction at the May board meeting. Since then, there's at last week's June 7th meeting, the Board of County Commissioner meeting last week, they did, for the county, they did a scaled increase to all employees between 10% and 3% for all employees. And they convened, Ben was there, they convened as a Board of Port Commissioners and requested that we do the exact same thing. So we did that. We are doing that now. It's effective June 23rd. And basically what they did is we did exactly what the county did, and everyone making less than $52,000 a year will get a 10% raise, and it will gradually go down to 3%. So no one is getting less than 3%, it's between 3% and 10%. The effective increase is 6.5%, added up. So over 60% of our employees will get between 8% and 10%. The people that we think need it the most are getting the biggest increases. Also at the meeting, they instructed us to take merit out. So we are not going to have merit in the budget. It's not here. They instructed us to take it out. And for this discussion purposes only, this is only for discussion purposes, they said put a 5% COLA in the budget, which we did. It's $1.7 million, but it's only for discussion purposes. It's not in the motion to approve, but it is in the budget. So I can that is the change. Otherwise, everything that we showed you in May is pretty much exactly the same except for those changes. So if you like, you okay, Ben? I'll walk them through real quick.
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So The budget, we had some goals for the budget to maintain a low competitive CPE, allocate resources for new positions, and also the continued use of the CARES money that we're getting to help stabilize the rates. So we're able to do those three things in the budget. So real high level, let me walk you through the operating. Total operating expenses next year, 40.8 million. It's a big increase. It's an increase of 6.7 million or almost 20%. Inflationary increases we're seeing in electric fuel and maintenance. And we also had some one-time expenses that they're not coming back, but we had a one-time expense of 3.2 million in the mitigation park. Remember we talked about that. And shuttle bus replacements of 2.2 million. That's actually in the agenda today. We're putting $10 million of the CARES money in, so that's a good thing. It's stabilizing the rates. Personnel expenses of 45 million, so it's a $45 million payroll. We are asking for 19 new positions. At the budget workshop, we said 18. We are now requesting 19 positions. And what I talked about the COLA is just for discussion purposes only. Good news on the non-signatory airline revenues. The revenues are really taking off as passengers are coming in. 79 million in non-airline revenues. It's a 25% increase, 15 million more than this year's budget. And it's pretty much all in parking lot, rent-a-cars, concessions, and restaurants is the lion's share of it. So we're glad to see that. We're projecting 10.9 million, 10.8 million passengers next year. We're forecasting about 10.6 to 10.7 this year. We think we're going to be close to 11 million passengers next year. Obviously, another record. All in, when you put all the expenses and revenues in our model and then layer in that CARES money that stabilized the rates, the airline rates cost per EP is $735. This year's budget at $731. So their rates effectively are going up 0.5%. The airlines. So we think it's a good budget. Glad if you have any questions. Page Field, real quick. Page Field, we're adding, we're requesting 2 new positions at Page. Record fuel sales, looking at about 2.5 million gallons next year. And we're layering in a small 4% across the board rents in hangars, which we haven't touched hangars in a while. So glad to.
Thanks, Brian. Any
Yep.
questions, Randy?
Brian, the average across the board, 6.5% is actually a little less than what we had anticipated. Are we confident that we're keeping up with the industry on compensation so we don't fall into that trap we had before where we're significantly below and losing people? Because of the cost of retraining and securing people is way more than pay.
That was the goal of the motion of the commissioners last week, is to avoid that problem and take care of our people now.
And if I may, the adjustments that were approved last week by the board, I think, do a very good job helping us keep up with the market in terms of what we're seeing in Southwest Florida. The challenges that we're having are in the pay ranges in that 50, 52,000 and below is where we're seeing probably the most turnover. So that's where the 10% is coming in. So that's where the most significant adjustments coming. So I think it does a good job in helping in that area.
Yep.
But our upper people think they're compensated fairly for today's standards.
So I think there's probably some work to be done there. And if you recall in the workshop, and you may not, but I had alluded to it a couple different times, we are going to be doing a pay plan study. And we have that in our budget, in our operating budget next year, to do a pay plan study. And that will take a look at all of our positions. We did that about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we did it about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a great, we put together a methodology and actually a formula that addressed every single position, every single employee, and it used market, and it used the region. It didn't use the entire country. It used our South region from a market perspective and compared our positions to other airports and, depending upon the position, local market as well, and took into consideration length of service, years in position, and where they should be within a certain range. And we had chose that we wanted to be, I believe it was in the 75th percentile, was where we wanted to be from a competitive standpoint. So we're going to be bringing back to the board the results of this study next year, and we'll be recommending some adjustments if necessary at that time as well for various positions, because I think it's very important that we remain competitive at every single level in the organization. I think what this does is address some immediate concerns. And that was what the board was really trying to do, is address immediate concerns. So,
Well, obviously, our traffic counts are record-setting, and this is way more than we projected 2 years ago when we were talking about COVID. We're significantly higher, which means everybody's working significantly more. I just want to take that into account when we
Sure.
talk about compensation, because you guys have a
Understood.
difficult job.
Understood.
Robbie, you have a question?
Well, I just want to make sure, because I think this port has been well managed, well run, and I don't want this as a perception out there that we were underpaying anyone. I think they've done a good job in keeping to the market. And the other issue I had was, be that as it may, linking us into the county, because not, we didn't get opportunity to look at that before a decision was made. And we don't get revenue from taxpayer money, right?
Right.
It's so I just didn't want the two pulled together, because this is all going to be paid for by good managing operations, right?
Yes.
And so my concern is, I think we were all saying, especially I remember Scott and myself wanted to be a record when we had put projections down so low on activity. And we said, no, they're going to want to get away from it all. They're going to want to come. We need to, that was when we were talking about deferring the expansion of the airport. Then we're going to have to be doing real catch up, because it's just going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what's happened, right? And so the last thing I have is, now I'm a little concerned, because we're taking these salary expenses, which, if that's what the market is, and we needed to make that kind of significant adjustment, I want that to happen, okay? At the same time, the passenger increase, just got 2 employees on vacation right now, and their flights have been canceled because, I guess, fuel costs are up. They've upped the cost of the plane tickets and stuff, and I'm beginning to wonder now, with the inflation where it's going, are people going to pull back on their family vacations, their activities, their flying? Not that I think we'll go backwards, but you really do feel comfortable with these projections coming in, because I think everything kind of impacts, at the end of the day, the revenue that we generate to turn around and pay all the expenses, right?
Yeah. So if your question is, do we
It's
still...
just more statements than anything.
No.
It's just...
Well, no, but the projections that we have for 2023, I think are consistent with how we typically project, are pretty conservative projections. We met with the airlines on our budget. We do our best to try to get projections from them when we prepare our 2023 budget. This market remains very significant in all their portfolios, especially in season. So I think we're in a good position. a lot of what's going on in the industry right now is, yeah, I mean, fuel prices are higher, ticket prices are higher, but there is some pilot things going on. There are some pilot shortages that are, so you're seeing a lot of the airlines pull back on their flight operations, and they're really trying to get caught up from everything that occurred during the pandemic. Things I think eventually will stabilize. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly when, but yeah, it's going to be a bumpier road probably over the next year, I would say for sure. But I think, you know, we live in Southwest Florida. We live in an area where people want to come. And I think the airlines will
just there,
continue to put seats. I think the airlines will continue to put seats in. Are they going to be in record numbers? Maybe not. But I think we're still in a very good position.
All right, so I will ask a question this time. So what, before the commission meeting, and then today, what type of percentage adjustment did it cause to our budget that we had to increase our revenues by?
It actually went down.
Did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so what we talked about in the workshop in terms of compensation versus what is in the budget projections now is less. So it's actually more conservative in terms of compensation for our employees, to answer your question. So.
I think my comments were that we don't fall into that trap, that we keep our pay at the high end for obvious reasons.
And Mr. Chair?
What I kind of see is, I see just an explosion in the multifamily market in the area. And the reason for that is the affordability of housing. And as we see interest rates continue to increase the way they are, I think we're going to see more housing that's going to be needed, that's going to be rental housing. It's going to be the housing of the future for this area. And also we've seen an explosion in job growth. We've seen tremendous inquiry of out-of-town companies looking to relocate here. I think we're going to see a lot of growth at Skyflex because of this. So I think we're being very wise in terms of putting on additional personnel, and at the same time we're keeping our projections of what that was going to cost us under the previously approved numbers. So I fully support the moves and recommendations the staff have made in this on the budget. You have a comment, Ben?
Well, yes, sir. Just wanted to say that, you know, the compensation study, I would expect that there's going to be some adjustments that we still need to make to remain competitive, and that's why we wanted to do it. We just didn't want to do it arbitrary. We wanted to have Mercer, who's the company that did it last time, to help us really justify, you know, where we're going. We think, and we're very 100% confident that the changes that we made today will help and offset a lot of potentially what ultimately would have been recommended next year. So it's been my intention all along, and I've never had a conversation with anyone on the board or even in public meetings with the board, the consistency that they're looking for in terms of compensation has always been on the salary adjustments recently, not in the compensation plan. They seem to very much understand that the positions that we have here, some of them are very specialized and is a completely different market. It's really more consistency in the salary adjustments that are being made on an annual basis, not necessarily the compensation plan and what we're paying the individual positions and the pay grades and things like that. So I just wanted to confirm that with you all.
Any further discussion on this item?
No, I understand both sides of the equation. And, you know, I'm just concerned that right now we're at a spike. You know, inflation's high and so forth, and who knows where that's gonna go, but I don't think we have any choice but to treat our employees well, because they treat us well. I don't know how you can create loyalty other than just being a darn good employer, and this is one way to do it.
Is there a motion on the item?
I thought we had it, but I'll move to approve the item.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody. Next item,
Yeah, thank you. Item number 5, we're requesting the board approve the use of a state Florida contract to enter into a software agreement with Car or Soft Technology to obtain DocuSign. It's a cloud-based electronic signature solution uh, for our use. Some of you may use DocuSign in your personal business, but we have been using it since the pandemic started in May. We started using it right away in May of 2020. It works great. It's all electronic signature, no printing. It's quicker. We're really happy with it. It's very robust. We use it more. We're using it so much more now that it's getting over the board limit. And we think that uh, we found a state contract, and we're going to use. They call them envelopes. Every time you push it through, it's an envelope. And next year, we think we're going to do about 16,000 envelopes. So it's at about $94,000 a year. So this agreement will lock that through. It's 1 year with 2 additional 1 year subscription renewals. So
Any
it works
discussion
great.
of the item?
Is this an item that you feel like will save us money?
Well, certainly it's a
Great
lot more
question.
efficient.
It's,
More
It's
efficient.
efficient.
If it didn't save us time and money.
It's time and money, yeah. Yes.
Well,
I use DocuSign in my
I use it
business,
too.
and I can't even imagine
If you
life
put
without
time
it.
and money onto it, yeah.
I use
yeah.
DocuSign also, less now that I'm retired, and it's free. I know we're a bigger organization. I
Yeah.
certainly don't do 16,000.
1,000. It's a lot.
It just seems to me like we ought to be able to hammer on them for
Yeah.
that. But that's also falls into treating our employees well and giving them good services and so forth.
this, Mr. Chair, if I could, this obviously this tool, I think we're all familiar with it. It creates an incredible amount of flexibility. It's certainly an additional cost to our budget, but it provides us an incredible amount of flexibility and certainly a much more efficient tool. We're certainly moving things through the organization a lot more efficiently. But
And
to
it
say
costs-
that dollar for dollar is it saving money in the organization, no, but it's a fantastic tool for our employees.
but
So,
sort of time is money too.
time is money.
It's
time is
kind of
money.
hard to calculate.
I agree with you, and that's kind of where I was going. Yeah.
Any public comment on this item? Not hearing any.
I'll move it.
Call for a motion from the board.
I'll second.
I'll move the, oh, yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item.
Thank you. Item number 6, we're requesting the board enter an agreement with Hub Parking Technology for the operation, maintenance, and management of our parking access revenue control system, which is called Parks, and also approve a task authorization in the amount of $145,000. Parks is our revenue control system that we have in the garage for the parking lot. We've had it since we've opened. It's a very good system, very robust. This agreement will extend it out 3 years. And also, it's going to do another, we want to replace the task authorization for $145,000 is to replace all the barrier gates throughout the parking lot and the garage, the armed barrier gates, it's $145,000. That's the only piece that's at end of life. Otherwise, the software is up to date.
Any discussion of the item?
Move the item.
No second.
No, wait a second.
Oh,
We have to call for public comment first. Yes.
Yeah.
Any public comment on this item? Not hearing any. I'll entertain a motion from the board.
so moved.
So moved. We have a second. We have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing it. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
A point of interest, or how do you say that on the, why did we do public comment on the agenda in the beginning?
This is new to me also.
I can see that.
I had thought that, I had thought calling for the public comment in the beginning
I
on
think,
any item on the agenda included the administrative. And it has for the
It
last
does.
10 years.
Mr. Chairman, when the law changed, though, when
Okay.
there was a new law, 332.0075 Florida statutes that
Okay.
requires
New law
public comment for each
Each
line item.
on the administrative agenda.
That meets the the threshold for certain contracts. So that's what you gotta do.
So do
I
we,
just left FGCU trustee, and that book's extensive, but we had to do it on every single
Right.
one.
Do we dispense with the item in the beginning of the meeting, calling for any comments generally on,
no, you have to do it for each administrative.
no, but do you do it overall and then they talk again, or how's that gonna work?
So technically, you could just do it for the consent agenda,
That's
because the
kinda
consent
what-
agenda, you're approving everything at once. Our agenda calls for it on consent and administrative. Technically, it could just say consent.
Okay.
And then you do it on each individual administrative
Sure.
item.
Got it. Got it.
Did I say that right?
I think
Yeah,
that's
okay.
what you said, isn't it, Noel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Hey, live and learn. Next item, Brian?
Yep, thank you. Number 7, we're requesting the board approve an agreement between the Lee County Port Authority and Starboard Consulting for the operation, maintenance, and management of the Maximo CMS system. Starboard, this agreement is for 5 years, July next month through July of '27, with one additional 5-year renewal. If you recall, the last couple of meetings, the ASMC's, we did an RFP for this. ASMC took our recommendations to go with Starboard so just the last meeting, you authorized us to get into contract negotiations with Starboard. And this is just a contract coming back for them to get to work.
Any discussion of the item? Any public comment on the item? Bring it back to the board for a vote. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
You did that very well. Thank you, sir. Next item?
Thank you. Number 8, we're requesting the board approve an agreement with AT&T to the use of a state contract for mobile communication services. This is for the term of through August of 2026, with an option to renew for 5 years. The AT&T, this is simply an agreement with AT&T for all of our mobile devices and iPads and everything. It is state contract for it's $49.95 per unit, per phone and mobile device. We spend about $190,000 a year for AT&T. So this is a state contract. We think it's a good rate. It's actually the same rate the county's paying. So we're requesting board approval for this item.
Any discussion of the item? Any comments, public comments? Don't hear any. I'll call it back to the board for a vote. Did I hear a motion?
I'll move it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for discussion. No further discussion. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item.
Thank you. Since my last one is request board rank proposals submitted for RFP 2238 for insurance brokerage services for Lee County Port Authority. On April 8th, we advertised RFP. We advertised the RFP. This brokerage services, very important consultant extension of staff for us. The current agreement is expiring, so we need to do an RFP. So we did that. We put that on the street May 9th. We got 4 responses. These 4 firms came in alphabetical order. They're Alliant, Aon, Arthur Gallagher, and Foundation Risk Partners, doing business as Essentia Public Risk. In accordance with our purchasing policy, we had a publicly held staff evaluation committee meeting. That was back in May 24th. The committee provided summaries in your backup today to help you. We are recommending, you have some choices as usual. We recommend, if you don't want to hear presentations, that Alliant, in the committee's opinion, Alliant rose to the top, with Arthur Gallagher as a close second. So if our recommendation is we go with Alliant and begin contract Alliant. They're actually our current provider now for brokerage services. They do a great job. If you want to hear presentations, you can hear from all four. We recommend, if you do want to hear presentations, that it's the top two, which would be Alliant and Arthur Gallagher. So
You can't, yeah.
Any
it's
discussion
totally
of
up
the
to
item?
you. You can,
I don't want to hear presentations on this. They're doing an excellent job. I would go with staff's recommendation myself on this item. I don't think we need to hear.
I'll make a motion.
Well, Chairman.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Call for any public discussion on this item.
Oh, yeah.
Not hearing any, we'll call it, go
Chairman.
back to the board for,
I do want to hear presentation.
oh, you do want it, okay.
Yes.
So we have one for
I just think
presentation.
that they're both too close, and in my research in the committee just does an excellent job giving all the facts on this, and then looking, and, you know, it showed that we've had Alliant for 5 years, but then we had Gallagher for like 11 years.
right.
And I'm saying, so is that because now did Alliant undercut Gallagher to take it away from them? And now here we are, Gallagher is a little less than Alliant, and I just think you gotta keep them all honest and see why.
Okay, well,
They're
my,
two
my
very
comment to
qualified.
that is that it's a fixed amount of money. We're no longer doing, paying for the insurance brokerage services by commission. We're paying a flat fee of $78,000, so it doesn't matter which one of them gets it. It's just whoever can find the 4 policies that we need, but we're not paying by commission anymore, so we're not enriching one company over another.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't, you know more about the insurance, I guess, than I do, but then why do they give proposed fees here?
Well,
We-
maybe staff would like to address
Yeah,
that
we
question.
did ask, in their proposal, that was part of the requirement, was to propose fees for the, and Alliant is a little bit higher, it's 78,000. They kept, which is actually what we're paying them now for 5 years. And you're right, Arthur Gallagher is a little bit lower. There's $62,000 to $64,000 a year. And we did have Arthur Gallagher back then, so either one of them can certainly do it. But it's required in the proposal to tell us what the fee is per year. And they are different. Alliance just a little bit more.
Any further discussion?
Not for me.
Okay. Does anyone from the public want to comment on the item? Not seeing that, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote.
Well, I guess I make a motion in deference to Robbie that we hear the proposal of the 4 that submitted bids
All right, we
at
have,
our next meeting.
The
Have a
4
second.
or just the 2?
Or you tell me.
Well, I clearly think it's between the 2. The other one, the third, was just out of the ballpark.
All right, then
And we've had experience with both, and I just want to see what they both have to bring, because insurance is very critical, very important. And so I'd go with the 2, as long as you can
I'll
just have 2.
restate my motion to say that we would hear presentations from the top 2 listed brokerages that staff rank 1 and 2.
okay, do we have a second?
That would be my second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Let me ask, did we have a reason for switching? Whatever, 5 or 7 years, whatever it was.
The current agreement is expiring this year, so we had to do an
Well,
RFP.
Yeah,
Is
but
that the
when-
question?
Can I,
Maybe not.
can I ask,
Yes.
Yeah,
the Airport Special Management Committee ranked Alliant #1 last go-around. Were there proposals,
Yes.
There were proposals just like today.
presentations?
Yep. I don't recall if there was
I
presentations.
don't know if there were
Ed, I don't think
presentations or
There
not.
was? Ed said there was. It was 5 years.
Yeah, I believe we did do presentations last go-around.
Yep.
And Airport Special Management Committee ranked Alliant #1. So that's what drove the change.
I think 5 years ago, we heard everybody that proposed everything.
Yes.
We didn't change up till like 3 years where we selectively didn't.
Y'all
Well, any further discussion?
Motion's on the floor.
I know. I'll call for a vote in a second. Make sure. Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
It-
I think for the two, we're gonna pick for the order of presentations.
Yes,
You
So,
wanna do that, Mr.
just
Chairman?
have Dana do it right there, or Scott, they're on the
I'm
end.
sorry?
Want to pick, the bucket, the order of presentation?
Heck no. Oh, go ahead, man.
Are they trustworthy?
You want me to choose?
Sure. For the record, my name is Melissa Wendell, Senior Procurement Agent, and at this time, Chairman Andrus, if we could have somebody draw the order of presentations
Dana, go
between the
ahead.
two top-ranked proposers.
He can't take the pressure.
Don't blame me.
Way to go.
No, I don't.
All right.
Choose
The
second.
first proposer to present at the next scheduled ASMC meeting will be Alliant, and then the second, of course, will be Gallagher.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great job.
Okay, next, I believe we have Chris.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Chris Stiles, Aviation Division Director. So I've got a couple items here. Item number 10 is request the board approve a 3-year contract for pressure washing services to Midland Pressure Washing Services, the lowest responsible bidder. The contract provides pressure washing services for 42 specific structures located throughout RSW's campus, to include the upper level of the curb, the roof of the terminals, this training center, several other buildings on campus. The estimated annual cost for this contract is $150,000, and it's for 3 years. Any questions?
Is that 150 every year for 3 years?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Anyone from the public want to comment on the item? No public comment. We'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Is there a motion?
Yes, move it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 11 is electrical motor. Request the board amend contract 9144 with Bob Dean Supply for the purchase and delivery of electric motors for the baggage handling system that was previously approved on September 9th of last year. The contract amendment increases the contracted price of the Baldor motors by approximately 33% to cover the price increases for the manufacturers made on their distributors. Any future price increases from Baldor that cannot be or will not be absorbed by Bob Dean will result in the cancellation of the contract, and we'll go back out for bids for a new contract. Any questions on that?
I just want to let the board know that essentially the price of the motors have gone up that much, and they've been eating the
Yes, they have.
cost of this increase in motors because we let the contract last year, and it was a 3-year contract. And so we're in the second year of the contract, and we thought we'd bring the item back to make it fairer for the company to at least let them break even on what the cost of the motors are.
You guys are generous. Just kidding. So we buy all kind of electric motors, isn't that it? And this is just like it for the belts or for the this
It's
or that?
primarily for the baggage system, but yes, we do use Baldor motors at other locations on campus.
So one breaks, we got a source. Is that the point?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Any further? Any public comments on the item? Not hearing any, bring back to board for vote. Do I hear a motion?
Aye.
We have a
Oh,
motion.
yes.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 12, request board approve a service provider agreement with Callahan Tire for the purchase and installation of tires on an as-needed basis via the terms and conditions of the Florida Sheriff's Association contract. We currently use Callahan Tires, and we've been very satisfied with their service. We anticipate spending approximately $100,000 a year on tires and services throughout the term of the contract. The contract execution date is estimated to be on around July 1st, the state contract. So we're going to piggyback that, and it'll be valid through March 31st, 2026, with no renewal options. Any questions on that?
Are these tires for trucks or?
Every vehicle we
Every
have,
vehicle.
every vehicle we operate. There's approximately 700 to 800 tires that we manage, we maintain on our fleets. And this includes RSW and Pagefield.
Is Callahan a big company or a little company? Because
Good
the
question.
shop is near one of my properties.
I think they're significant size. We're actually using them now.
The
We've
one
been using them.
brand's place.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And I mean, they've got a pretty decent schedule of pricing in the back and selection, so.
Any further discussion? Any public comment on the item? Not hearing any, call it back to the board for a vote. Do I hear a motion?
I move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not hearing any, call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item number 13, request board authorize a service provider agreement with Universal Protective Services doing business as Allied Universal Security Services to provide security guard services for LCPA by piggybacking a state of Florida contract that runs through March 8th, 2025. The estimated annual cost of this is up to $350,000. Currently, the Airport Police Department manages the traffic control specialists. One of their primary duties is staffing Gate 64, which is the primary airfield access gate. The goal is to replace that, our employees with security contracted employees on that gate. That's a pretty standard practice among throughout the airport industry. And it also allows us to use the traffic control specialists on the curb at the front of the terminal to manage traffic in the vehicle lanes and the crosswalks. And there'll be other assignments. These security guards will also be utilized to augment our on-season demand. During the peak season, we have more traffic, so we need more people out there looking. So they'll be helping with crosswalk management and vehicle management. In addition to other duties as assigned by the police, we may have other posts for them to assign. So.
Any discussion of the item? Dana?
Will this cause us to lay police officers off?
No, sir. No,
Addition
sir.
to the-
So this is an augmentation for the traffic control specialists, the non-sworn staff for the police department. They're currently at 16 full and part-time, and they've got 4 leads. So, that may sound like a lot, but when you schedule them out and you need them during peak seasons, we need more help on the curb. So this is going to help the police and the security with staffing that.
14.
13.
Oh, okay, that's why I'm going.
Any-
Don't make
any
sense
further-
what he said.
Any further comments? Okay, any public comments on the item? Don't hear any. We'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Need a motion? We have a motion.
I'll move, sorry.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye. Aye. I was actually voting, but.
All right.
Okay, item number 14. Yep, hold on. Item number 15.
Chris,
Yeah,
before
I'm on
you
that.
get into this item, what I'd like to do also is, as part of this item, I'd like to call James to the podium to talk about some of the issues that Scott raised a question in the beginning and those types of questions, and if we could have him come and answer some questions about your vehicle fleet.
Oh, do you want him to come up before I present this, or?
It might be a better idea. James, if you could come forward and talk to us about the vehicle fleet. Essentially, what we'd like, James, is to tell us a little bit about our vehicle fleet. Tell us what process you go through in terms of realizing that the life expectancy of the vehicle is up, and what do you do? What's your process for getting rid of the used vehicles, and what do you do in terms of repair for them? And is there a percentage of repair that a vehicle incurs before you decide to put it on a list that it's too costly to maintain, it's better to get a new vehicle? Talk to us about those kind of issues, if you would.
Sure, yes, sir. For the record, James Ferriosi, Port Authority Maintenance. I'll give some general rules and guides, but, certainly flexible as it relates to the repair. We consider all factors. What is the use of the vehicle? Is it a high idle vehicle? like an airfield maintenance truck, a police car, a fire truck. And in that case, you may see mileage down, but hours up, which does have wear and tear at a different rate factor than just mileage. So we have a factor that we apply there, typically a 30 to 1. So if we had a piece of equipment that had 10,000 hours on it, it could be the equivalent of a vehicle with 300,000 miles, one factor. The other is age. Typical guide could be 10 years, 100,000 miles. It's on the radar for consideration. And then we'll evaluate what is that condition of the vehicle. Is it in good condition, fair condition, poor condition, while considering what are the corrective maintenance cost repairs that we've had to expel on that vehicle to date. And as a guide, we look at that 25%. If the corrective maintenance cost is 25% of the replacement cost, we'll start asking ourselves some other questions. You know, is this a high ticket item, let's say on an ARF apparatus, where you could have radiators and transmissions that could exceed the cost of a standard vehicle? So we'll go through a different process to evaluate that than we would from a vehicle or a car. And then we maintain all of those records in our CMMS, Maximo Computerized Maintenance Management System. And that just helps us run these reports and queries. And when we do get to the replacement period, we will either, and we've done various things. There's times that we've traded in older vehicles for new vehicles. There's times that we've gotten rid of vehicles on government auction. And now we've presently been leveraging local auction houses because that alleviates a lot of the burden on Port Authority staff, whether it's purchasing or maintenance staff, for folks that want to kick the tires and come out and start it and drive it and look at it. So these auction houses just come pick up the vehicles and then they handle that on their own.
Will you be continuing to repair the vehicles in-house, or will you be subbing that process out at a later date?
We will continue to maintain vehicles in the maintenance department, with the exception of the airport police department vehicles. And those will be working with our contracts department, right, to contract that out.
Scott, did you have a question?
No, I think actually you've hit the high point in your comments that, you know, the auction, I understand that, and instead of having a yard sale kind of thing, we don't burn them anymore, do we?
No, sir.
Any further questions of James? Robin, you have any? Thank you very much, James. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thorough.
Okay, so agenda item number 14. Request board approve the purchase of 18 new patrol vehicles for the Airport Police Department in accordance with the request made by the board on May 5th, 2022. The requested motion includes a 10% cost contingency to be utilized in the event unanticipated supply chain challenges occur at a total cost of $1,710,847. That's utilizing the Florida Sheriff's Association contract as a procurement method. The total cost includes the installation of all required accessories and mounted equipment using Lightning Wireless Solutions located here in Fort Myers. I'm sure there are questions on that.
Any questions?
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
So when we say 18 vehicles for $1,710,847.05, did we bid that out already and tell them what we wanted and knowing all this equipment will be on it? Or do we just, we're pretty sure we can buy them for that much?
So that price was bid out. It wasn't bid out. It was actually provided through the Florida Sheriff's Association.
I mean, I sort of understand
Right.
that process.
And the accessories that we wanted are also included in that price. It was in, Melissa, I might need your help on this one, if you would.
So,
Come on up.
Melissa, you need to
Yeah,
go
come on up
front.
to the podium. I just don't want to misspeak.
Sure, of course. So the Florida Sheriff's Association is where the pricing comes from. So we went through there. That is a contract that is multiple awarded, so there's lots of dealers that you can go to. So we had to do an awful lot of research to actually find vehicles that were in stock. So there was a lot of phone calls to the successful, or to the awarded contractors for this contract. So once we got in touch with those contractors that had the equipment, the vehicles that that were in stock, we got firm fixed price quotes from them. And the firm fixed price quotes included a whole list of all of the accessories that the vehicles needed to be outfitted with, so that the contractors, that the vehicle dealers are actually contracting with the aftermarket Lightning Wireless dealer for the aftermarket parts. So our contract brings us the fully loaded vehicle for the price that's indicated in the green sheet.
And those 18 vehicles are sitting somewhere waiting for us to buy it at this point?
They're in stock. Yes.
Is the chief okay with all this?
I'm sure he is.
Thumbs up?
Any further discussion? Okay, any public comment on the item? Not hearing any.
I'll move the item.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for a vote on the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Item 15.
Okay, item number 15, request board approve the purchase and delivery of 15 non-ADA Ford F-450 14-passenger vehicle or shuttle buses from Huntley Dealership Services for use at RSW at a total cost of $1,606,589, which includes a 10% contingency that's considered in the event there are unforeseen logistical challenges realized during the purchasing period. The funding for this purchase will be included in the fiscal year 23 budget. These buses will replace a large portion of our current fleet of 2016 model year buses, which are now at or near the end of their useful life. The request for bid sought qualified vendors capable of holding fixed pricing for the new shuttle buses to have a delivery date not later than December 31st, 2022. Any questions?
Any discussion of the item?
I did have a question. I'm just curious, living in an area, and you have to remember, I just came from the university, and we're focused on a whole program of aging and getting some grants. And living in an aging community of retirement and still, why would we not get all ADA? I'm just curious. You're purchasing some non-ADA configured and then some ADA. Are they more expensive?
The ADA have less seating capacity, and the demand, we have a good mix right now where our mix is 16 non-ADA and 4 ADA. The 15 the 18 we're purchasing right now are going to replace the majority of I'm sorry, I stand corrected. We have 20? 20. We have 20, total of 20. So we have 16 non-ADA and 4 ADA. We're purchasing 18 non-ADA, and we're going to go back out to bid here shortly for the additional ADA buses to replace the existing fleet. So the mix works. It just we have a higher capacity on the non-ADA buses because we utilize those for both surface and for employees. So it rotates around.
What's the difference in the seating? Quite a lot, substantial.
Well, we're able to capture more passengers on the non-ADA buses.
Right.
So it's just more efficient for us for the operation.
Right, I'm sure it is. I was just wondering what the
Cost variance is?
No, sir, what the seating capacity is on a non-ADA versus an ADA.
Steph, do you recall? Is it 4 seats less on the ADA bus?
Huh, okay.
Any further?
Is there significant cost difference?
ADA buses are more expensive.
Yeah. They're more expensive to be 18 as well. Are they? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the item? Any public comment on the item? Not hearing any public comment, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
And then I believe Mark.
Good afternoon, Mark Fisher, Airport Development, for your last administrative item today. As we discussed at our CIP workshop earlier this year, We last repaved our only runway here at RSW in 2006, and with a 20-year lifespan, we need to get ready to do that again. So the first thing we want to do is hire an architect and engineering firm to help us develop phasing plans and prepare cost estimates so that we can use that information to help us secure grant funding. And then ultimately, the selected firm would design and prepare specifications for the pavement overlay and rehabilitation of runway 624. Staff advertised a request for qualifications, and as a result, we received 9 proposals and then held a public meeting to review those submitted responses and develop written summaries that are included in your backup. Staff felt that 3 firms demonstrated the best qualifications to do this work in their written proposals, and therefore staff would recommend that Michael Baker, Kimley Horn, and Jacobs Engineering be shortlisted by the ASMC for further consideration, and we would have oral presentations scheduled for a future meeting.
Any discussion of the item?
Did you say we have oral presentations?
So
scheduled?
we would schedule those at a future meeting.
Okay.
Any public comment on the item? Do I have a motion on the item?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Second, then,
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion?
we are going to hear
We're
presentations.
going to hear presentations, top 3 out of the 9 that staff recommended. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, if you would please draw the order of presentation.
Yes. Would you have Scott do the honor this time?
Scott, your turn.
Scott, you're up, buddy.
Yes, you did.
Yes, we talked about it.
Number 1.
Here, you want to do this? Let me read. Here, go ahead. Either way.
I'm sorry. Here, I'll take the glasses.
Don't switch it.
Here's number 2, and you can guess who number 3 is.
All right, for the record, Melissa Wendell, Senior Procurement Agent, Lee County Port Authority, and for LOQ 18-28. No, that can't be right. Hold on.
20.
Thank you. 22-20, Architectural and Engineering Services for runway 6-24 at Southwest Florida International Airport. The first firm to provide the oral presentations at the next scheduled meeting is Jacobs Engineering Group, followed by Kimley Horn and Associates, leaving the third presenter as Michael Baker International.
Entertain a motion to accept the order.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. So we'll be hearing oral presentations in that order. The Executive Director Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few comments. April 2022 statistics, again, were outstanding for us. RSW finished the month with 1,221,000 passengers, which was the best April in the 39-year history of the airport. I think you probably heard that record before. The traffic leader this month was Delta, followed by United, Southwest, JetBlue, and American. Not to be outdone, Page Field had an outstanding month as well with 15,665 operations, which was the best month for flights in the nearly 40-year history of that airport. RSW is now the 29th largest airport out of the top 40 for passenger throughput at U.S. airports for the first 5 months of 2022. As business travel resumes, more passenger traffic will be going through markets like Baltimore, Charlotte, and Washington, Dulles. Prior to the pandemic, RSW was the 44th largest airport, and we expect that eventually, as markets stabilize, we'll settle in probably just a little better than that 44th largest airport. April 2022 was another record-setting month of fuel for base operations with an increase of 16% compared to April 2021. Fiscal year-to-date volume is up 13% compared to the same period last year. Good news for international travel was announced on Friday. U.S. ended its COVID-19 testing requirements for air travelers coming into our country on Sunday, June 12th. This restriction had put a damper on people traveling, from Europe and beyond, as they had to have a negative COVID test 24 hours prior to returning to the United States. And last item I have is just to remind members that our next meeting will be a joint meeting on Thursday, June 23rd. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Port Attorney items?
No attorney items, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the ASMC members?
Not for me.
Not hearing any. At this time, we will call for public presentation on matters by citizens, and I have two cards. The first would be Mark Steinberg.
If I may,
No comments. Yes, go ahead.
I know Mark, I'm well acquainted with him. We serve, he's a senior ambassador, I'm an ambassador to the Bahamas. And Mark discussed an issue, and I felt it was best that he come and address this forum. So,
Okay, just to let everybody know before we get started here that we're hearing a 3-minute presentation from each speaker.
yeah,
And,
that's fine.
but there's not any dialogue from the board back.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Steinberg, and I've been a pilot tenant on Page Field for approximately 22 years. And I will tell you that it's a dream location for pilots, and I have friends from other parts of the country who come here and don't believe what we have given to us on Page Field. Staff is great, and facilities are great, and can't say enough about it. A while back, staff, Scott Sheets, presented to us the new plan for some of the renovations and changes on the airport. With my 50-plus years of logistics experience, I'm a home builder. I've done work from every place from the New York Stock Exchange to 20 some odd years ago to around here, including work for the Port Authority. I recognize the plan, and sometimes plans wind up with a life of their own and go into a direction that not really well, not intended and could be changed. A couple of the things that we see, that I see, and again, I'm not intimate with your budget and a few of the other things that go on, although I've done quite a bit of government work, is we're tearing down a group of hangars and displacing 20 some odd tenants for up to 2 years and moving hangar tenants around tie-down tenants around as well. It would seem to me a better idea to build onto new areas that you have this 13 acres vacant grassland on the southwest corner of the airport, build some hangars there, let the growth go and be more user friendly. And I know there's a lot more complicated than my very, very might be basic understanding of what you guys and gals go into, but that is one thing. There's also the replacement of the GAC building on the southeast ramp. As a builder, I can tell you that historic building has lots of life left into it. Bathrooms are disgraceful. They need to be replaced. But it's in the best location on the southeast ramp for general aviation, and you guys can save, folks can save a ton of money by renovating that building and using it. The new building that's proposed will have rental rates, as we understand it, that will probably drive out a good many of the existing tenants. In addition, having outside bathrooms, so a tenant might have to walk over 100 feet into the weather to use the men's or ladies' room with that design. It just doesn't seem like a great design to me. I just would wish if you guys and lady may consider some alternatives, and the life of the plan may be better lived out with a little bit of review. I appreciate it, and again, available for any questions.
Thank you for your comments.
Well, thank you, and thanks for hearing me.
Go ahead. Say your name for the record, please.
I'm Ted Ehrlich. I'm also a member of the Sundowners Flying Club. I've been a pilot for 51 years now. I'm old, and been here for 22, and I love the airport, love the facilities, and really love RSW as well. We are really, really blessed, but I've only got 3 minutes, so let me comment. In addition to what Mark was saying, we see that, first of all, as Danley tenants, there are 6 tenants in that building. The 2 flying clubs have 250 members. We've got 7 aircraft and 25 aircraft that are owned by independent members of part of the club as well, not part of the club aircraft. We got 3 flight instruction companies in the building, and we've got one aircraft brokerage company. All of those activities require tie downs. They don't, there's a couple of airplanes for the one club that are in hangars. They've had an incident because of that, but they really require open space because you're running out with tenants, with members, with visitors, people going for a tour, whatever. You've got to flip them really fast, and you've got to be in and out, be able to refuel them, get the logbooks, whatever. So ease of ease of access to the aircraft multiple times a day is essential. Ease of access, as Mark said, to the restrooms, and not just for those of us on tie downs, but everybody on that ramp, everybody from Alpha hangars. We've got one airplane over in Bravo hangars right now. My wife refuses to go to the outhouse over there, so she has to come all the way over to 605 now to go to a restroom. So access to these restrooms is really important. Access to parking spaces. When you have students, when you have chartered, when you have all those people coming in, they're all in cars. Right now we have a reasonable number of parking spaces at 605, but what it looks like is we're going to eliminate a lot of those in the new location. We're only going to have 14 total where the new building is proposed. And so basically I'm saying the tenants at Danley don't need or want hangars, but we'll take open space tie down somewhere else. But we think the location of the building is very, very important that we have access to. Basically, we see three problems with the plans that are out there. And we've discussed all this with Scott and given him our input, but we appreciate the opportunity to give it to you, the board. Location and functionality of the new GAC building. It's located way down in the first lower right-hand corner of that picture is where the building's going to be, as far away from just about everybody who uses it right now as you can get. And the new hangars that are going to be above there are going to block a lot more. We're going to be way far away from that again. And the restrooms are used, by the way, everybody, I make a point of restrooms because every time we take somebody for a ride in an airplane, every time we go for a ride in an airplane, either going or coming, the first thing we want and the last thing we want is the bathroom, okay? So the access to these bathrooms is really important. Pardon me? My time's up?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yerlin.
Thank you.
Ben, would you?
Slideshow that I was going to do for everybody, if I can just leave that.
Go ahead.
Yes. Would you provide us some follow-up comment on that?
Yeah, so I think we'd be happy to meet with both individuals, you know, and talk to them about their comments. I think they're important comments to follow up on, and we appreciate
Especially
the
the
feedback. Yeah, and the bathroom things, we'll certainly be more than happy to talk to them and do some follow-up, and we can certainly follow up with you all as well.
Okay,
At
great.
a later date, so, sure,
Okay,
happy to do
That
that.
sounds great.
Sure.
Okay, any other items come before the board?
Nope.
Not hearing any, the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.